Hello. Okay, how old is the Welsh language? I've recently had my Facebook page invaded by comments, big ones with big letters, the bigliest letters you can imagine, with pictures of dragons, saying things like the Welsh language is the oldest spoken language in Europe. No, that's nonsense. Welsh is no older than, well, Breton, obviously, Irish, really, Greek, German, Icelandic, of course not. Welsh is a modern European language. What I want to talk a bit about today is how old is Welsh? Well, the amazing thing is, do you know, today, 24th of August, 2026, Welsh is 3,223 years old. Happy birthday, Penblwydd hapus I ti. No, of course not. Languages don't have birthdays. Languages don't have birth dates. Languages evolve. They change always. Wonderful book I read as a teenager, Language, Change, Progress or Decay by Jean H. Sun. And that it is. Language change is neither progress nor decay. Every single language changes. Think of the language your grandparents spoke. Do you speak exactly like them? You quite possibly speak a different language to your grandparents. Your accents will have changed. There will be some features in the language that sound old-fashioned to you. There'll be things in your grandparents' in your language that your grandparents will find horrible. As many of you as well, there will be things that you're hearing young people speak around you speaking. You're thinking, oh, that's awful. That's terrible English or terrible Welsh. And that is how languages change. You only need to look at a book written a century or two ago and you'll find different, odd, strange things in them. Right, so let's get back to how old is the Welsh language. There are, in fact, ways you can sort of roughly date languages. Now, not all languages change at the same rate. Some languages can be rather conservative, like Icelandic in Iceland. It's been fairly isolated, small population, and the Icelandic of today, though not identical to the Icelandic of the 13th century, is still fairly similar. Modern Icelandic speakers can read the old stories, the sagas, with a bit of guidance. But for someone to try and read Chaucer or even literature a bit earlier in English, it's a struggle. And for Welsh speakers to read the poetry of the 14th century, or even the Mabinogi of the probably 12th, I would guess. It's a lot of work. So language change is neither bad nor good, it always happens. But how do you date languages? The thing is that sometimes languages change very, very rapidly in short periods of time. That can be because of social crises, people moving, suddenly lots of people learning the language, often as adults, and not acquiring it imperfectly, and that influencing the language, the spoken language generally. Now then, what about Welsh? Right, Welsh changing. My Welsh is not that different to the Welsh of my grandparents, but I can see amongst many younger Welsh speakers, they're losing awareness of a lot of features that were standard to us. gender, mutations, sentence structures and the like. That's largely because of the influence of English, and they're growing up in bilingual societies where they're exposed to less good Welsh, if you want to use a subjective term. Now let's focus a bit more on Welsh. Now, my grandparents would have understood the Welsh. They were born at the beginning of the 20th century. They would have understood the Welsh of people born in 1800 with little difficulty. It would have sounded a bit odd. There would be less English words in it, probably. But remember, for my grandparents' generation, they had Welsh at the Sunday school, but they also had biblical Welsh, Welsh from the 16th, 17th century. And the Welsh of the 16th century was also rather conservative Welsh. It was written by people who were familiar with the native linguistic tradition maintained, for example, by the bards. Now, my grandparents, however, trying to talk to someone like Anne Griffiths, a century or two earlier, would have found it a bit strange. Her hymns would have been a bit alien, but they would have understood the hymns and the like from their biblical schooling. However, if they were to encounter someone like Owain Glyndŵr, flourishing the beginning of the 15th century, they would find his Welsh to be rather strange and odd and difficult. And Glyndŵr, listening to my grandparents' Welsh, would find it to be alien and bizarre and full of words he didn't understand. Now, if you'd put Owain Glyndŵr in an airport waiting lounge with, let's say, Griffith ap Llywelyn, the Gwynedd man king who unified Wales around 1065. If you'd put them in a room, in an airport waiting lounge, they would find their Welsh to be rather different. They could probably have talked to each other, but they would have found it very strange. Now, if you go back to the 7th century to someone like Cadwallon, son of Cadfan, who died in 634, a very powerful and interesting king, and you'd put him in a McDonald's with Llywelyn ap Griffith of the 13th century, they would have struggled to understand each other. All sorts of things had changed. The pronunciation had changed. There were new sentence structures. There were many words had been lost. New words had been coined. New words had been borrowed. And they would barely have understood each other. However, from Cadwallon or Cadfan of the 7th century up until today, there is no sharp break. One person would have understood her grandparents, and she would have understood her grandchildren as well. There was no point in this, from that period, in fact from about the 6th century until today, there is no sharp break. There are vast changes on all levels: pronunciation, vocabulary, sentence structure, sentence order, mutations. So, if you put someone like Cadwallon fab Cadfan, or son of Cadfan from the 7th century, into the Eisteddfod today, he would have very little idea what was going on, and vice versa. And yet, we use the word Welsh or Cymraeg to describe these two mutually unintelligible forms of speech. Now, did he speak a different language? Well, that gets into a very, very subjective field. How do you define a language? Which features you have to say unify them? For example, modern Welsh, you say it has the sound. Well, Cadwallon fab Cadfan didn't have that sound. What about the nasal mutation we have in modern Welsh? Well, he didn't do that either. That's something that evolved around the 9th century or so. A roughly similar period to the evolution in Welsh. So it starts to get complex. But you have a continuum. Now, there is a break in Welsh, probably around the 5th to early 6th century or so. The Welsh, or so-called Welsh, of 400 would have been largely unintelligible to the usual Welsh of 600. There are reasons for that. The changes were very, very rapid. You would have had, at some point in the middle there, perhaps around 500, you would have had somebody in his 70s who remembered how his grandparents spoke a very different type of Welsh, let's call it Brittonic in this period. And he would have heard the young children around him, the market perhaps, or in the farm, speaking something very, very different. Now, this was a period of great vast social change. I'll explain. Now, Celtic, as we call it, again, always changing. We use the label Brittonic for the language spoken in Britain. It may have been just a dialect, in a dialect continuing with Gaulish and perhaps even with Irish in the early period. There's a debate about that. And there may just have been a vast continuation of varying dialects all the way from perhaps even northern Italy over to Northern Ireland. A vast array of shifting dialects, vaguely rather similar, but at the ends they may have been so different that you'd have to consider them different languages. That's how languages work. When you are distanced for many hundreds of years, you develop linguistic peculiarities. Now let's get back to post-Roman Britain, the period I'm quite interested in. Now, as I say, Brittonic has been evolving, changing constantly. And the standard work for this is Kenneth Jackson's Language and History in Early Britain. Now he, this remarkable linguist, wrote a whole book on how establishing a relative chronology of sound changes, that is, which one happened after which one, in which order the sound changes occurred. But he also managed to establish when these changes happened. This is an absolute chronology. I mean, changes don't happen overnight. They take time to spread, but some linguistic things will suddenly become very old-fashioned or very difficult or very confusing, and new forms emerge. And it'll take time for these to spread throughout the whole linguistic community. Now, Kenneth Jackson's book is the book to read here. There have been modifications to it, but basically it still stands as a very robust, challenging read. Now, let's get back to around 400, the beginning of the 5th century. Roman central control in Britain ceases. We're not sure what the linguistic situation in Britain was, but the Highland area, that is the area not in the southeast, was almost certainly speaking some form of language we'd call Brittonic, not identical to the Celtic of 400 years earlier. Many changes on all levels. The southeast, where the villas are, may already have switched to speaking, well, it's called Latin, but it wasn't really. We'd call it late spoken Latin. And that would be a form of language much more similar to Catalan. And I'm actually in the highest Catalan speaking place in the world,